right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. I do appreciate you all very, very much. A big shout out to both our sponsors real quick here. Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. And, of course, Imperial Pizza as well with two locations, 1655 Main Street. And the other one in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road. Make sure you guys get out and support both those places. Fine eating and drinking establishments. All right, this is our Monday podcast. We are recording this live on the video side as usual here, 9 p.m. or so on a Sunday night. No Bills game this week, of course, this weekend, I should say. Still plenty to talk about, though. So, as usual, I'm joined by my guy from down in New York City, Joe from Queens, man. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Before I came on, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm doing a podcast with Patrick. She's like, didn't you guys just do one? Like, and I'm like, no. I'm like, we did one Thursday, but I have to do one every Sunday. And she was like, why? And I was like, good question. I don't know why. Why am I here? So, hi.
What kind of beer you got going there? We'll do our typical thing here. And hello to everybody, by the way, who's starting to file in already. I haven't looked yet, but it's not a podcast without Tooch. I don't see Tooch yet, though, man. Yeah. Mike Carliso's in the house. Mark, Scott's in the house. Ryan, there'll be a lot there. What's up, everybody? What do you got there?
Okay, we got a Blueberry Falls Blue Kolsch. This is from Omegang, 6% alcohol. It's blueberry. I've had it in my fridge for a while now. This might be the last of it. So, you know, you're privileged to have one of my beers, or in terms of like it being good enough for broadcast. But to everyone, you could be a sponsor on our show and show your beer to me and all that sort of stuff. So and I think we lost Pat, possibly. I don't hear him anymore. Oh, we're going to have another Pat meltdown, everyone. 1 second. All right. Well, look, I'm just going to do the Pepsi test while Pat is going to kill everyone. Everyone. Yeah, you can't go wrong with blueberry. So I'll read the comments. Yeah, Pat went to mute. It's all good. Overall, this is very good. He says 1 minute. I don't hear him, but it's fine. Oh, this is going to be... I think we need to go back to, hey, but so everyone, I appreciate everyone coming on to the show. I feel like Belmonte on Major League when Bob Uecker like got wasted and passed out. So
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
I don't know what's going. Listen, I have a $500 mixer that is about to go in my driveway and it's going to get run over by a car after this show. This is the second straight week this happened. At least this time I was aware enough we can edit on the audio side at least and cut out the part where I was gone. I apologize for that, everybody. I did not hear what you were saying. You can hear me, though, right? Everybody can hear me in the live chat if you're following.
Yeah, Mark just said you were back, even though Mark just said I was ugly. I think we need to ban Mark right now.
Mark said you were ugly.
Yeah, we're banning you. I could ban people, okay?
You can. Two things. You're drinking a beer. I got a funny take for you here in just a minute from a regular listener. We'll get to that. But no Bills game here on a Sunday. And what did you do today? Like, what was today like for you not having a Bills game on a Sunday? I don't know if you already said this on the show. Like I said, I was lost there for a good minute and a half. But
I made a couple jokes and I took a swig of my drink and said you were going to kill people. Today we took Andy to swim today. He was at swim at 8:30, so we had a class for swim. He went to a birthday party at a karate place, which was really interesting. I don't know if you ever took Shane or your daughter to a birthday party when they were kids at a karate studio, but we did it there, and it was definitely unique because they were doing like training, and the birthday boy had gone to karate for like 3 years. He was 5 and was breaking boards. I was like, this is like Cobra Kai or Kitty Kai over here. So we did that, and that ended at 1. And then I got home, and I was like, we put Andy down for a nap, and I went for a nap, and then my wife went for a nap, and I woke up like at 4 o'clock. So I missed the afternoon games, the early games. Got up, did some errands with Andy. I went to the gym. I joined a gym because I want to look sexy for this podcast because we're on video now, and that's it. So I didn't watch much football today. I'm gonna watch like NFL prime time after this podcast to catch up on the day. But I know of some things that have happened, but it wasn't like me. You don't, when you have a kid and he's like 2 years old, you don't have these like, oh, I'm gonna relax on the weekend and watch football.
Sure.
Like that doesn't happen anymore. I'm sure you did because you were like, you're like, I don't care, I'm Pat. Arr.
I fought a hangover this morning. One of the bigger hangovers I've had in quite a while. So I was doing Sober September and I failed. I had one beer before, so technically I'd already failed. But yesterday it was beautiful out, dude. The weather was nice, so we had a bunch of people over on the patio outside. Actually a lot of Busch Light apples, and then some single malt Crown Royal a friend of mine brought over, which was really strong, man. It was good, but I paid the price. So yeah, I spent half the day in the house. I did get a new iPhone, so I'm going to be shooting a lot more video content to annoy people on social media. Gonna start doing some
Pat's
shorts.
90 seconds, like 30 seconds longer than Sal's 60 to compete against him.
I was gonna say, what movie was something about Mary was 6-minute abs? Well, 5-minute abs, or something like that. Yeah, Sal's 60 is gonna be Pat 75. So I'm gonna shoot an extra 15 seconds of video. For people who are regulars here, whether you're watching or whether you're listening on Monday, we did a live show right after the Bills-Miami game on Thursday night. And let's just say that Joe had a solid handful of pops, okay? A solid handful of pops. You were feeling it, dude. Let me get to a comment from Alex Barber, who's a regular. He sent this actually via email, a regular on the show.
Yeah, I know him.
This is in reference to last Thursday. He said, if Joe got any drunker, I fear he was going to start seeing nice things about the content bros. You ended the show just in time.
I mean, it was my friend's birthday, and I can tell you exactly, I had like 3 big ass beers, like 16 ounces. Like one was like the one with the bar handle, like the German things, what the fuck they're called. And then I had 2 shots, but these are like big ass shots. They're like in these, like it's no joke.
They're doubles.
So I felt, and I shouldn't have had that beer while drinking, but like it crashed while I was eating my pizza, and I was like, well, I may as well have some sort of
the stream crashed, and we had about a 5 to 10 minute lull where I was absolutely losing my mind, and Joe pounded another beer too. I'm gonna lie to you, I started having a little bit of a Tone Pucks flashbacks nightmare from
rest in peace, Tone Pucks.
From our fiasco. We did a live show at Mooney's, and yeah, man, and we had a funeral before that, and Tone was sauced up.
You know what? If I didn't even tell you that I was drunk, you wouldn't have known.
I would have known.
No, you wouldn't.
I know you well enough. What kind of shots? Mark wanted to know in the live chat.
It was Jameson.
Well, really?
Yeah, we don't. I guess I'm not a. I used to be a bigger shot guy when I was younger, because like my whole plan when I used to drink and go out when I was in my early 20s was I have to get annihilated. So I would be like, I would double. I was an alcoholic. I was out of my mind. I would double fist Long Island iced teas, and then I would get like 2-3 shots of Crown and just guzzle them. And then in like 10 minutes, I was out of my mind. And like, I just was a bad binge drinker, and it was bad. It was stupid. Like, I shouldn't have been that terrible in my early 20s. But then, when I got to New York, they didn't have Crown. Like Crown, you tell me, is Crown still like the big shot of Buffalo? Probably, would you say?
I'd say so. I mean, I had plenty of it yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
I'd say so. I don't do shots often, but when I do too many of them. It's kind of like how I am just with drinking in general. I don't drink often, but when I do, I still drink too much. I'm a binge drinker.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I used to be. I've stopped that, thank God. Mark in the chat says picklebacks. Picklebacks are a very good shot. I don't know if you ever had those.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you chase him down. It's Jameson, I believe, and you chase him down with pickle juice, and it tastes like nothing. Dude, it sounds terrible.
I hate pickle juice. So when I get like fries or a burger or beef on weck, I specifically say no pickle on my plate because I hate the pickle juice. So that would not be for me.
You might look, it goes down like nothing, and like that could cause trouble. I got hammered off those probably like 10 years ago in New Jersey. But either way, I was Feeling okay. I still had good takes, much better than yours on the podcast.
You were all right. I mean, you were functioning at least, which again, going back to that Mooney's episode, in fairness to Tone too, we went to a funeral. A friend of ours from high school had passed, and there was a group of friends, and we had a lot of drinks before. I didn't because I was doing the show. Tone did, and it showed. It might be to this day one of the few podcast episodes ever that I literally wanted to delete from existence. By the way, Mark in the live chat said, "Is Tone Buck's really dead?" No, he's not. Really dead.
He's just off the podcast. Pat never wants him on there.
He's my frenemy for life, and he always
we'll bring him back
been.
at some point. Me and Tone are going to have our own podcast soon.
That would be really interesting. I do want to pull up one political comment. Where is it? It's not political. It has Trump in there, and that's usually an automatic. I'm not gonna find it. I gotta find it now. God damn it, I had it. It was pretty good. There it is. Mike Carliso said Joe treats the content bros like Trump treats the Dems. He has nicknames for everyone. You do. You do have a lot of nicknames, man.
Yeah,
the
but
Podfather. Let's go through them real quick. You got the Podfather, Joe Marino. You got, what is it? Airball Quinn. You like to call Aaron Quinn.
Airball Quinn, Greg T-Bone Thompson, Bruce All Lazy.
Because he only has one podcast per week.
Podcast 1 week. Selfie. For Sal. What else is there? Bro Scott, because John Scott, or Schmedium Scott. I haven't decided yet. He always has a Schmedium shirt on. What was another one? I had one other guy that I had a nickname for. Oh, Joe Miller Lite. Just call him that. I don't know. There's probably a couple. I mean, Pandering Pat, obviously, is
Pandering Pat for me, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta think. Matt Rich Warren the Seventh, because he has such a rich name. Matt's Rich Warren the Seventh. I never trust anyone that uses three names.
Three names.
Yeah, I don't trust that. So sorry, Matt Rich Warren the Seventh. I don't trust you. All right, what are we talking about today?
Let's start to get into the show. So I'm going to run down some things that at least I've learned, and we'll see if you agree, or maybe you have a couple things of your own too. Things that I feel like we've learned or we're learning about with the 2025 Buffalo Bills. We'll spend some time talking about that. We're going to spend some time. I got a handful of listener submitted takes and questions that typically I'll do a pod bag episode, but those are kind of hard to do during the season because got a real structure going on right now. But anyway, I pulled some of those aside, so I'm going to read some of those off. If you are live watching this on the video side and you got a question or a take that you want us to get to, leave it there. I'll try to bookmark it and we'll circle back. So that's going to be what's on the dock for today. We got a Mount Flushmore. You said you got something to put together. What's that topic going to be?
Well, the Bills are playing the Saints next week. So I'm picking, in our series of stadium memories, I'm picking the 4 worst Mount Flushmore Saints games in Buffalo of all time.
Okay, so we'll get to that as well. Like I said, Mount Flushmore.
Flushmore, yes.
Where do you want to start? You and I, so let's give people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. You and I have been arguing, which is nothing new.
Today.
Behind the scenes, but the turnover thing. So on the show last Thursday, maybe that's where I started realizing that maybe you were drunk. Or maybe you just believe in what you're saying, but it was kind of one of those, you had the mindset that turnovers don't really mean that much, and I disagree strongly. But I will allow you to elaborate a little bit on what your stance is right now. Mine has been very cut and dry. The Buffalo Bills are as successful as they are because they just never lose the turnover battle. They've won 25 consecutive times with the turnover battle, an NFL record, the most in history. But you think that turnovers, I don't want to put words in your mouth to say that you think turnovers are overrated. Go ahead. I'll let you have the floor right now.
By the way, Mike Carlisto, Timo Marino, I forgot. That's another nickname for Anthony Marino. So Timo Marino. I love that one. Okay, so listen to me. This is what Pat says to me. Like, I remember the podcast, and I'll get into my turnover take. But this is what Pat said to me on September 19th, Friday at 1:45 p.m. after our show. Now, did Pat say, hey, thanks for coming on late? I know you have a kid. No, this is what Pat says to me. Also, I have to tell you, I started a blog in 2009 and started the podcast in 2018. And your take about takeaways has to be one of the absolute worst takes in the history of sports talk ever. This is what I get from this asshole on Friday. I'm just like, okay, let's fight, you prick. So yeah, this is what I'm getting from this guy. My whole thing is this. This is in the prism of Josh Allen football, okay? I'm
Mhm.
not talking about overall. Do turnovers matters? Yes, they do. I'm just saying I never have gotten on that bandwagon of Josh Allen is a much better quarterback now because he doesn't turn the ball over. And a lot of, I feel like ESPN pundits said that last year. I think you probably believe that. I think a lot of content bros believe that. I like guys who are gunslingers. Brett Favre won 4 MVPs or something like that. He threw a ton of interceptions. And that's where I think like you have a cheat code in your quarterback who he can be aggressive and get turnovers and bail you out. Plus, the first 3 years, let's just say this. Josh Allen as a turnover machine, air quote, was what, 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
2022. The Bills won 13, 11, 13 games with the Hamlin injury being like it could have been 14. Who knows? They probably would have lost that Bengals game. But they still did good with Josh Allen's "you only live once" passing. And that was when a defense was in the top 10 both those years. I remember in 2021 they were number 1. Then they switched it over and they wanted to be more conservative. In my opinion, this is mine, because they wanted to give their defense a rest. Like they didn't want them to get turnovers and they had to get the defense back on the field. They wanted to be more balanced, maybe take less hits from Allen. Who the hell knows? But my whole thing in the prism of Josh Allen with turnovers is I don't mind him having turnovers. I want him to be aggressive. There isn't been a giant difference in the Bills' win-loss record since they've adapted this new philosophy. They won 13 games last year. They did it before as well with Josh Allen with his "you only live once" thing. That's my thoughts on turnovers. So on Friday, I think, or for the Dolphins post game, I think you had said like the difference in this game was a Terrell Bernard turnover. And I was like, I don't think it was. I thought it was like the Bills were going to win that. I wasn't worried. They should have won that game, I think, going away. But I think when they missed that field goal, when they should have scored and Kincaid had the breakup or whatever with the pass, like that's when they lost the game. I just didn't think like to be like, well, thank God they won the turnover battle. And that's the reason they won, or the main reason they won. I just don't buy that. So I'm not into turnovers because you have Josh Allen. Because there have been times like, Tyrod Taylor, when he was the starting quarterback, he didn't throw interceptions. And what was their record? They were like 500. Why? Because they couldn't move the ball on offense, really. So why do I care about turnovers all that much? That's kind of my whole thing in terms of that. I just feel like if you're gunning it and you're scoring a lot, and they're scoring a lot now, so I know where you're gonna go, and I understand that. I'm just saying in general, I'm not like, oh my God, it's so great that he doesn't turn the ball over anymore. I thought he was fine when he was gunning it all over the field. I really did. I thought it was fine. This version of him is fine too. That's it. Chicken, steak. That's where we're at. So go ahead, tell me I'm wrong.
Nothing you said was unfair. Nothing you said was unfair.
Say it's the worst take ever all time. I got the message. I got the receipts, as the kids say.
Well, because, now you're expanding your take a little bit. Basically, you were saying turnovers don't really mean that much. And I think that's ludicrous. And I'll even go to 2021, which, by the way, someone in the live chat said his turnovers weren't really a problem in 2020. They weren't. He only had 10 interceptions in 2020. But I went and I looked up 2020 and 2021. He
did fumble a lot, if you remember. I know you didn't include that. He did fumble. He was a fumbler a lot in the early part of his career.
Well, what I did in 2020 and 2021 is I went game by game and looked at the turnovers that they got and the takeaways that they got and the giveaways that they were responsible for. So the Bills in 2020 were 13-3. They literally went undefeated when they won the turnover battle. They didn't lose a game where they had more takeaways and turnovers. The 3 losses they had that year, they lost the turnover battle once to Tennessee. They got smacked that game. And then they were even with turnovers in their losses to Kansas City and Arizona. Arizona was the Hail Mary miracle at the end of the game. But literally 2020, they didn't lose a game when they won the turnover battle. 2021, they only went 11-6 that year. In their 6 losses, the Bills only won the turnover battle once. And they lost 3 times, and they tied twice. So only one time where they lost the turnover battle in their 6 losses did they still win the game. And that season, 7 times they won the turnover battle, 7 times they won. They were undefeated in 2021. We know over the last year or two, we really don't need to go through that. Now, I will say, too, and again, you're right, I'm looking at the fumbles and stuff, but we're kind of handpicking the years that we want. Like, you want to feature 2021 where they went 13-3. I want to feature last year where they won 13 games. Sure. If you look at the 2 seasons where the Bills lost 6 times, which is 2021 in 2023. Josh Allen had 15 picks in 23, and he had 18 picks in 2023. And that doesn't count the lost fumbles by him or other running backs either, of course, so or special teams turnovers. So I don't know, man. The turnovers have definitely.
I just don't think it's that big of a difference in terms of the win-loss record in totality at the end. Like you mentioned 2021, there were games, I do remember those games. Like they lost to Tom Brady when it was like a duel and they lost in overtime. I don't think they lost that game because of turnover. I think they lost because Brady was really good. He outgunned Josh. I don't know. I just don't think it's as, I guess I don't put as much of an importance when I look at Josh Allen and go, man, he cut down his turnovers. That is great. And then I'm going to go and rub one out because of that. I'm not there for that. Like I thought the version before him was fine, and I thought he needed more weapons, to be honest. I get why they're doing this now. As I said, I think their defense probably isn't as good as it used to be. And they want to like keep him off the field. Sean McDermott is a defensive coach. They kind of like that shit. It's one. I'm not here to disagree that it hasn't, but I just don't think it's like, oh my God, like that's the biggest reason why they are where they are right now. Because they were where they were in 2022 when they were 13-3, except they beat Baltimore last year, and they've always had a hot start. So
well, let's say this. Josh Allen cutting down on his turnovers is definitely a sign of his maturity, and I think it's made him a better quarterback. Maybe not quite as exciting as he used to be. And I also think the personnel and the mindset of just their philosophy of attack is obviously a lot different too. When you had Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, there were a lot of forced balls. Like Josh Allen used to try to force passes into Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. It seems like, I don't know the stats, but I bet you some of his best quarterback rating scores have been when he targeted Gabe Davis. Just bad things seem to happen a lot when he threw him the football. So now you go back to this everybody eats thing, and Josh doesn't care, and the team doesn't care who's getting those targets. Like Diggs had to get his targets, or that was going to be a problem when he was here. That's not a problem. And it doesn't matter who gets the targets anymore. The Bills have had 3 games so far, and 3 different guys have already led the team in receiving yards. I will agree with you that it's a little more nuanced than just saying turnovers mean everything or turnovers don't matter at all.
Yeah, it does matter, but I guess, I don't know. I think of Josh Allen. There's 2 different versions of Josh Allen that I'm fine with. There's the passing YOLO one that's throwing picks, but also throwing for 350 yards and like they're scoring 35 points. And there's the Josh Allen that's more cerebral. He's dunking it when they need him. He's the man, and they're still getting 30 points, and they're just not getting turnovers. Like that's what I mean. They're kind of the same. I just don't think it's like this big giant. This is why they're different now because of that. Yeah. I just never had but I get like, look, part of being great sometimes is forcing the ball. Like I said, Brett Favre did it, and he had 3-4 MVPs or whatever the fuck he had. So
I want to. This information, I shared it to you, and you told me to go F myself pretty much this today. Mm-hmm. A Harvard study, and we're not going to talk about this isn't just about the Bills. This is just turnovers, period, in the NFL. A Harvard study found that teams with a +1 turnover differential win 69.4% of the games. A +2 results in 82.3 wins, and a +3 differential leads to winning 91.4% of possible games. This is according to Action News Jack. So it's indisputable, generally speaking, that turnovers are probably the biggest deciding factor in a team winning games. And look, you go back to last year. I think the Ravens smack the Bills if the Bills don't get those 3 takeaways in that football game. They don't beat the Ravens here in week 1 if Ed Oliver doesn't force that Derrick Henry fumble. And they might not have beaten Miami if Terrell Bernard didn't get that interception on Tua, which I got to take on him. We're going to get to in just a minute. So anyway.
But like I said, I think the ultimate thing for me is you have Josh Allen. He is the cheat code. I think turnovers matter more if you're kind of like a mediocre team and you're trying to get by. But like if you have Josh Allen, you can be aggressive.
Read that comment on the screen. What do you think of that?
Josh decreasing his turnovers last year helped him win the MVP with the voters. I do agree with that because I think there were a lot of I watch ESPN here and there, and at First Take, they always bitched about his turnovers. And once he took that away, they were like, oh, and like, I don't know. I think turnovers is kind of like a boomer take. Like people love talking about turnovers. And I'm just not. I saw Josh Allen with my own eyes play lights out in 2020, 2021. And yeah, he had turnovers, he had interceptions, but they had like 35 touchdown passes and all, more than that. So I don't know. But yeah, I do agree with that was a big part of it. Because as you and I have talked about last year, his numbers were down in terms of passing yards, but he had moments and he also lessened the ball. And I think people do really like that. I don't happen to love it. I'm like, okay, fine. There's other things I look into more than that. But
here's when we'll pick up this discussion. The first time the Bills lose, if they win the turnover battle, I'll shut up. If Josh Allen throws 2 interceptions and they lose because they lose the turnover battle, then we will restart. We'll restart this. And here's what I want to do on the video side. Quite literally a 5-second break. We'll be right back. I want to talk about some things that I feel like I'm learning right now about the 3-0 Buffalo Bills. All right, back here with Joe from Queens. By the way, do you prefer these bigger, tighter shots, or do you like the smaller, wider 2-person on the video side? Or do
I like
you not
the wider one. I don't like this one all that much. I like to see my cat needs to be in frame, and he's not in frame right now. So if you put it in, like, yeah, see, he needs to be in frame.
Plus,
there's Paxter. There you go. See, now he's in frame, and like,
all right, there it is.
I like that one. Yeah,
that's
we don't
fair.
need to have an extreme close up of us. I
know. Plus, it's the second time I've used that shot. I did it on Thursday show, and both times my stream has crashed too. So
plus, you have the Sunny Reds logo, and then you have the Imperial Pizza logo. They're
more visible on this one. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then Baxter's back there. It's great.
Let's get into some things about what we're learning about the Bills and the 3-0 Buffalo Bills right now. Number one for me is that nobody or nothing has been really surprising on offense. Like, I feel like everything that's going on right now with the offense, we kind of expected. Josh Allen has been studly. James Cook has been studly. The offensive line has been studly so far. We expected that. Coleman and Kincaid, especially Kincaid, have grown this season so far from last season. I feel like we kind of expected that. The only thing that I would say has been a little bit of a surprise when it comes to the offense is maybe Jackson Hawes, the rookie tight end, the 5th rounder. His role's been a little bigger than I anticipated. Conversely, Ray Davis, who I thought would build off a really solid first year. I don't know if there's something going on with him injury-wise. He's banged up or something. But Ray Davis has been as big as of a non-factor.
James Cook made him into a non-factor.
Sure. Well, Ray Davis didn't even get a touch last Thursday against Miami. But kind of feel like that with the offense. Like, there's nothing you're seeing right now. It reminds me so much of last year's offense, too. You know what I mean? You agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. I'm trying to think of like what a surprise is. Maybe Curtis Samuel not doing a damn thing or not even dressing.
I didn't even dress yet. Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good one.
You talked about him a lot in the summer, and I didn't really buy it all that much because I wasn't impressed with him last year. But him not playing at all is, I guess, a little bit of a surprise. In terms of that.
Sure.
But they have a lot of the same. When you have this, everyone eats crap. A guy can go down, and you're like, I don't think it's going to really hurt them as much as you think, because all the guys are kind of the same. Like, if Stephon Diggs went down, it's like, oh shit, it's Stephon Diggs. But like when it's all these other guys, they're like, okay, they got someone else in there and all that sort of stuff. Kincaid, I would say is a little bit of a surprise. So he's been good. Like, he's been much better at blocking.
Thank you, because I was going to add, he is a much improved blocker right now, watching the film and stuff than he was last year.
Film. Yeah.
The film,
the porn film. Yes. No, I'm glad he's blocking a little bit more. I mean, I don't really care about that, but he's catching the ball, which is much better than blocking. I know you want, the film bros are just threads of filming of him blocking people on Twitter is just like, oh, look at this, which is fine. It's fine. I just want to waste my time.
Let me go back to Jackson Hawes real quick here.
Oh, yes.
Again, a 5th round pick, another day 3 pick, man. It just feels like Brandon Beane does a better job on day 3 than he does on day 2. It's very early, but it feels like this is going to be another draft where 3 years from now, we're going to talk about Day 3 guys that have really hit, multiple ones. Deion Walker, we'll talk about in a minute. Jackson Hawes. I still like Jordan Hancock, a 5th rounder. His time will come at some point. Maybe Dorian Strong, the 6th rounder. He started in week 1. But then the day 2 guys, Landon Jackson has not played it down yet. And TJ Sanders should go and start being a healthy and active for a while because he's done absolutely nothing for the Bills. We'll get to that in a minute as well. But Jackson Hawes we all knew he was a great blocker. We heard about him being a great blocker, but he's had 2 pretty big receptions already. That 29-yarder against Baltimore was huge in week 1, and then he had the touchdown, his first touchdown in this game. So, yeah, I think he's been a pretty good surprise. Here's another thing I've learned. Watching the film, this Bills defense got really lucky against Miami on Thursday. You and I did a show. We were on the air 15 minutes after the game. Obviously, in the moment, real-time reactions. Alcohol-fueled, for you at least anyway, reactions. Going back and watching the All-22 and really studying Miami's when they had the football, I think this defense got lucky, and I think Tua, I thought Tua sucked, okay? When I go back, I'm going to pull up his stats right now because sometimes we argue, you and I, or just people in general, about stats and how they could be so utterly deceiving. And sometimes you'll look at a box score and you'll conclude, well, he had these were his numbers and he was pretty damn good. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Tua was 22 of 34 for $146 with 2 touchdowns and an interception. And I'm telling you right now, he could have thrown for 300 yards if he would have been throwing to the wide receivers. There were wide receivers open a lot that Tua did not see. Some of them pressure-fueled, some of them not. That interception was just completely inexcusable. They showed the film. There was a tendency. I don't want to get into all that scientific shit right now, but just take my word when I tell you this, dude. Tua did not play well. He did not do a good job of finding the receivers that he should have been throwing the football to. And the Bills defense made a couple nice plays here and there, but for the most part, they got bailed out big time by Tua making some really bad decisions.
I agree that Tua didn't look that great. I agree that the defense wasn't up. My big thing on the defense was they were terrible on 3rd down, and that was how you were that one drive, the drive that made this much more closer than it was that back-to-back drives in the first half when they should have scored the Bills to make it 21-7. They fouled. Then Miami went down the field and were 5 for 5 on 3rd down. And then they scored, they tied it up. That to me is what made it kind of an annoying game, which I thought it should have been like the Bills should have took them out. The killer instinct needed to be there a little bit better. It wasn't.
Sure.
For that matter. But I don't know. The defense was just it was there. It did enough. Tua like 145 yards. That's why I was like afterwards. It was hard to like. And you said it best. Like the stats can kind of tell a different story, and then the film can tell a different story, and it depends what confirmation you want, in terms of that. And I just thought, like overall, it was offensively for both teams in that game. Even though they scored like 31 and 21 points, it was a little bit sluggish in the passing game. It was death by a lot of paper cuts. No one had their deep game at all in that game, and that's something I think the Bills overall this year was an issue. It has been an issue. It's like the deep ball, the air ball, at least 25 yards in the air, I would say, hasn't been there. And I know, and here's the thing, and I'll go off on a tangent here, and this is going to be completely a little bit off topic. On Friday, after the game, or on Friday morning, I go on a Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and I see all these content bros talking about how, like, people are really upset about this game. The people, air quote, the people. And I'm like, what are these people upset about this game? Like, are you not allowed to be critical? Am I not allowed to say, hey, they need to be better at their deep balls or their balls that travel at least 20 plus yards through the air? Well, the league is not like that. Okay, what are we talking about here? You're talking about the Browns? Like, they're not good at freaking throwing beyond 20 yards? Of course not, they're not. They got Joe Flacco or someone. Like, you could be a little bit better. What about the worst thing that ever happened in sports and politics? Like, what about this? Like, you just have to be better. But it doesn't mean, like, I think they're going to lose the Super Bowl or be terrible. You could be critical. I could also say on defense, hey, your third down defense sucked. It was really bad. You need to be better. You were good in the first 2 downs. Just be better at it. That doesn't mean like I'm a Grinch or a fucking asshole that I'm not allowed to say this. And then it becomes blown up like all these people are who with stature was really upset about this game afterwards. No one was. But you can nitpick. And that's fine to do that. Doesn't mean like, oh, like you're such a negative Nancy or whatever they want to call it. It's just stupid. And then like I think a lot of people, especially in the content sphere, they love doing that because it gets them a ton of likes on Twitter, and it does, and like it gets more than even negative stuff if you want like my God's honest truth. And I think they love to do that with these evil people being mean to the Bills. Like who? Like everyone was like, hey, you're in the moment of that game and you're annoyed, but then it's like, okay, they won by 10, it's fine. They need to work on things. But I can talk about the things they need to work on.
I was more worked up after that game than I think you were. You were the one on the show Thursday and was like, hey, man, they won the game. What did you expect? This and that. Yeah. And I in the moment, I wanted more style points. You know what I mean? It was just kind of.
I think you were more inclined to say where we disagreed with. Like, you thought it was much closer than I thought it was in terms of worry. I was not worried at all. I was annoyed, but I was like, they're going to win this. It's going to be fine. Give me another shot. And that was kind of how I dealt with it.
Let me say this too, Joe, just for people out there who are listening, or if you're live in the chat right now on the video side, Joe's opinions are Joe's opinions about content, bros. Some of them I agree with. Some of them I don't. I'm in that same lumped in category
too.
as well. But what I won't do is say, well, you can't say this or you talk about these people. Joe's got his own opinions, whether I agree with them or not, and he has every single right to express them. I'll pull up some comments in the live chat, as long as they're not too far nasty over the line, and I'll put them up there too. That doesn't mean that I'm necessarily endorsing them. There's some things about the Cover One guys and the Rumblings guys and even Joe Marino, whoever, that I don't agree with, and there's many things that I do. But anyway, the whole point was...
I saw a couple people who were in that content space like, where are all the people now? You watch these games, you shouldn't be concerned. Like, what the hell do I care about Green Bay beating Cleveland, like 0-2 versus 2-0? Like, great. I'm just talking about that game. And again, it's mostly about like the reaction. Like, I don't think anyone with stats like substance was like, this team's terrible. Oh my God, how dare. Yeah. Like, there's no exaggeration of that. And I don't think that it really exists, except if you have like a person with no avatar or has like 20 followers. And I think a lot of them really love to make it like I get reaction to the reaction. We all do that. I don't get reaction to a reaction that doesn't really exist and it's by a fringe. That I hate. Like, no.
I think I've learned that. We're talking about things I've learned about the Bills. One thing I've learned about life right now is I kind of feel like Twitter has really become, and all social media, it's a very loud minority a lot of times that speaks for people, like you just said, that often don't even exist. Let's continue here, though. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing I've learned. Greg Rousseau's a pretty nice player, and he'll do some good things, and he'll have some days where he looks really good. But this dude, I just don't think he's ever going to be a true star player in this league. He's certainly no sack artist. He's never had double-digit sacks. He's not going to get it this year. It certainly don't seem like that anyway. He's sackless through 3 games, and it's not even like he's come close to getting a bunch of sacks either. I'm not saying he's not a good football player. I'm just saying I don't think he's a star player. He got that pretty big money deal this offseason, and I had expectation that with Joey Bosa there, and Ed Oliver's only played 1 game, but these rookie defensive tackles are going to be better, that Greg Rousseau is going to get more favorable matchups, and he was going to take that next step. I'm not seeing that from Greg Rousseau. I think this has been a very, very slow start to the year for Greg Rousseau.
When you watch the film, and I hate to ask this question because I hate the film, was Rousseau better than you thought he was? Because I know we talked about that's a big
yes.
He hasn't done anything.
He was better than what I thought on Thursday Night Live. I saw one play where he chased down Tua and made a good play because Bosa got caught it. I actually talked about that one play, but other than that, I'm like, this dude didn't do shit. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go that far after watching the film. He was okay. But I want to see more than okay. Yeah. From Greg Rousseau. Again, what I'm learning, I just don't think he's a star. Decent.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Ed Oliver to come back and see, like, get them healthy and all that sort of stuff. I'm waving to my wife. That's all. On camera. She says hi, I think. Maybe. Probably not. Yeah, she says hi. But yeah, I'm waiting for them to get a little bit more, to them to get that whole thing up and running with Ed Oliver back, whenever the heck he's coming back. But yeah, I agree. But here's the thing. Like, what are the what would make you at the end of this season pissed off about Greg Rousseau?
What he's doing right now.
So what he's done, you're going to be pissed off at the end of the season.
If Greg Rousseau ends up, he's not going to end up with no sacks, but if he plays 17 games and you gave somebody $20 million for a guy who's getting AJ Epinesa level production, that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Again, he'll probably have a couple games where he gets 2.5 sacks in a game.
Maybe.
So they might get up there, but
will.
I thought that he was going to become a double-digit sack guy, and he's not. So I don't know. Anything less than 8.5 sacks, a couple some impactful plays, doesn't have to necessarily be sacks. Give me a lot of pressures. Give me some really good run defending on the edge where you force the guy back inside and someone else makes a big play. Give me a forced fumble. Give me more knockdown passes. There's lots of other ways beyond just sacks to be a star player. He's just been very pedestrian so far. So I'm learning that I'm concerned about Greg Rousseau ever taking that next step. And another thing, too, and I spent all summer long downplaying him. Honestly, I was getting tired of hearing about Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt, especially Larry Ogunjobi. That, yeah, this defense is going to be better after 6 games, and these guys come in and you know, they get into the lineup. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't give a shit, and they don't matter to me that much. Well, I think they do. So what I've learned is the Bills could really use Michael Hoyt, and actually, especially right now, Larry Ogunjobi after week 6, because they are getting nothing at the edge. We just talked about Greg Rousseau. AJ Epinesa and Javon Solomon are doing nothing out there. They're doing nothing out there at the edge through 3 games now. And I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I'm not saying he's going to go on and become the next Boogie Basham for this football team. But it has been a very disappointing first couple of NFL career games for TJ Sanders at defensive tackle. He is getting massively outplayed by fellow 4th-round rookie Deion Walker. And I talk about Hoyt and Ogunjobi now because if Ogunjobi and no one else gets hurt, Ogunjobi comes in that lineup, I think it might be time to sit TJ Sanders for a while. He just doesn't look ready to me yet. And whether it's Epinesa or very likely Javon Solomon, as soon as Michael Hoyt is off that suspension, I'm looking forward to seeing him out there because, again, I'm not getting anything from Epinesa or Solomon, and Landon Jackson literally isn't even active right now. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm learning that Ogunjobi, Hoyt are going to be welcome additions to this team.
In terms of Ogunjobi and Hoyt, I don't know yet because we haven't seen them yet. It would be nice, but here's my issue, and this is I'm being a dead horse here. The rotation, I think, can be a hindrance in terms of impact guys individually. Like looking back at the game on against the Dolphins, AJ Epinesa played 34% of the snaps. That's it. Greg Rousseau 66%.
Yeah.
While Joey Bosa had 87%, which is kind of crazy.
That's not that's not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. They might say F that, but like they need to. That's why I hate the defensive line rotation sometimes because it's you have to get on a roll and it's hard to like yeah, AJ Epinesa has to be better. He hasn't done anything, but he also doesn't get on the field as much as he should. Like if he plays another 20 snaps, does he make a play on those extra 20 snaps? Maybe. Possibly, you know, and that sort of thing. But that's what they want to do. But the rookies, you know, I wasn't really counting on the rookies to do much. You know, and I always get them mixed up. This is, you know, I talk shit about the content bros, but honestly, I'm the worst of them. Because I always get the rookies mixed up. Like, who's the one that's playing well for the defensive tackle?
Deion Walker.
Walker's playing good. He's a 4th or 3rd rounder.
4th. They traded up in the 4th for him.
Sorry, thank you. 4th, and Sanders is the one that hasn't done anything.
2nd rounder. He's the 2nd rounder. They moved up for to go get.
I gotta write this. See, I apologize to all the content bros. I'm worse than they are. But yeah, like they definitely need help. But now then, once they come back, what happens to like the younger guys? Like, what happens to Walker? Does he get thrown kind of away a little bit? Like, he's
No,
showing
I
something.
think right now
Yeah.
TJ Sanders is going to be the odd guy out, man. For now, again, I'm not writing his career off after 3
No,
freaking games in his rookie year at a position that generally takes time to become good at, but it's just not a good start. And Ogunjobi will be an upgrade. And in the live chat, Mark's point, he says, I live in Pittsburgh. Larry O was not good here with the Steelers. What do you expect? I expect him to be better than what I've seen from TJ Sanders. That's what I expect. Mike Carlee still said Groot is another Trent Murphy, just a big, worthless goon. That is absolutely insanity right there. Trent Murphy was a scrub. Greg Rizzo is not a scrub.
If Tooch was here, he could bring up receipts about you loving Trent Murphy. You loved him back in the day. Guy looked like a White Walker, or not a White Walker. He looked like those idiots from Beyond the Wall. I forgot their names. The Wildlings. That's what he looked like.
The Wildlings.
The Svens. That's what they were. The ball.
One other thing I feel like I've learned is that I've learned that I haven't learned what I don't know what to think of Trey White right now. I don't know what's going to happen at CB2. There's been some moments where I feel like Trey White's look good. Some good run stops, which is funny because that's not what he's good at. But he's given up a lot of cushions in pass coverage. He's got to beat a couple times. He didn't play, obviously, that first game. And that blitz, I ranted about that on Thursday. I thought that was one of the 3 worst plays of the game for the Bills. Him whiffing on Tua, of all people, on a clear look, ended up allowing Miami to score a touchdown and completely switch that game going in to the locker room. I don't know what I think about Trey White right now. I feel like teams have not tested him enough, and I don't know if he's going to stay in the lineup. I don't know when Max Harrison, their first-round pick, when he's good to go, I don't know if he's going to get on the field and start. I don't know if Sean McDermott's going to play favorites like he usually does and stick with Trey White, kind of like Hamlin and Cole Bishop a little bit last year after Bishop missed time. I don't know. I don't know what I think about Trey White right now. I haven't learned what I want to learn about him. I don't know.
I have no faith in Harrison doing anything this year because
I agree. I tend to agree with you
because he missed camp. And look, we've seen this before where if you miss camp, unless you're Josh Allen, like Sean McDermott doesn't really trust you all that much and is going to put you in. Like that was the consensus last year with Curtis Samuel because he missed training camp and he never got his footing, blah blah blah. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a very very slow play. And I'm not going to say I blame him for it. Like I guess I understand. Like he's a rookie who played 1 week and then got hurt. I don't even think he didn't play in the game, did he? Harrison.
No, he got hurt. He had a non-contact injury at training camp practice.
Right, and but he didn't play like in the first preseason game or anything. It was before that. No. Yeah, so I don't. I
agree. I do agree with you. I think because he missed so much time that Sean is gonna. Maybe he plays a little bit later in the season, but I don't see him minus injury displacing Trey White. I would say, if Trey White gets injured, say a month from now, the real question is going to be, is it going to be Dorian Strong or Max Hairston who gets to start? Because Strong's been there the whole time, and he's gotten to start already against the Ravens. We'll see. By the way, shout out to did make it here in the live chat. It's almost like
thank God.
He had a premonition that we were talking about him or something and had to get on live with us. We'll see about Trey White. Let me get to a couple of submissions from listeners. I'm going to read these off, and I'll give you a chance to respond to as well as these.
Oh, Renee, one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing I also learned that going back to the offense with the tight ends, I think all 3 tight ends, I guess Miami paid like 50% of the snaps or something insane, which I did not think they were going to play 3 tight ends. I know you talked a little bit about how your boy
Jackson
Haas. I didn't think they were going to do like a 3 tight end offense, but they love playing the 3 tight ends, and it's my worst nightmare from like 2-3 years ago. But they're scoring, so I'm not going to complain all that much. I will complain though when they can't get guys down the field. Then just like you with the turnovers, that's when I'm going to complain and be like, "Where the hell's the down the field passing? We got our blocking tight ends in. Get out of it."
Yeah, they're playing a lot of 13 personnel, man. A lot of 2 tight end looks. Yeah. So not a lot of 11 personnel right now going on. So yeah, for sure. At Renee Williams 5777 said, "Dude, they held the Jets to 0 for 11 on 3rd down. They are a work in progress. It's super frustrating, but I bet the next game being against the Saints, they're much better on third down. They have extra time this week to look at the tape. I think some of it might have to do with what is called on those downs, but that's a theory. I'm not super concerned yet. The young DTs have a lot of work to do, but again, it's early, so I'm hoping they get better. I mean, that is fair. They did hold the Jets to 0 for 11 on third down, and they're playing the Saints this week, so I'll be concerned if they're no better on third downs than they were against Miami against the freaking New Orleans Saints, then I'll start to get a lot more concerned. It's a good comment, though. Good take.
Sure.
Mr. 585 Rocked says, Deion Walker is going to be a superstar. It is inevitable. Thanos, it's inevitable. I don't know about a superstar, but I do think he looks like a future solid starter.
I would definitely like some defensive linemen to step up. You know, that's not named Ed Oliver or Bosa in this matter. But yeah, it would be nice if a younger... They've been drafting defensive linemen since they got here, and it would be nice if someone other than Ed Oliver, who we've had our moments with against him, and the same with Rousseau, like someone we can just not have an issue with every game or every other game once a month. Like, hey, he's good. So
Bills fan for life said, where the hell is Groot? This guy's absolutely absent. We just, we already addressed that a little bit earlier. At What Are You Thinking One, Greg Olson made a really good comment about early passes on first drives of a game, staying out of the middle of the field because quarterbacks are generally too amped up or either sell it or have too much on it, and it leads to bad things. Thought that was a really good point. I'll comment on that real quick. I agree with that. Do you notice that sometimes, like early in the game, Josh is really amped up and they do throw, like, I'm thinking about it after hearing that comment, like some of his overthrows are almost always to the sideline. You know what I mean? They're calling the right passes or the right plays. But do you notice early on Josh being a little bit too amped up? I feel like I have a few times.
I thought that was that there was a narrative about that like a couple of years ago, and I think he kind of squashed that. I mean, this year they've scored touchdowns on their first on all three of their drives, the first drives of the game, if I believe. Like they scored it against Baltimore, they scored it against the Jets their first drive, and then last week they scored. So I don't know. I don't really buy that as of right now. It was brought up a couple of years ago. I do remember that being a thing. Like he gets too hyped up and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, let's move on. So Alex Barber, the one who had the comment earlier about Drunky Pants Joe on Thursday night. This is a pretty good comment. This is some Sean McDermott love, and this is random because it's got nothing to do with this season. It goes back to last season, but just some flowers for Sean McDermott. Alex said this. Rewatching the Ravens playoff game from last year, McDermott made a big call in the fourth quarter when a drive bogged down under 4 minutes left with the Bills up 5. They were 4th and goal, and instead of going for it, McDermott kicked a field goal to go up by 8. That caused the Ravens to go for 2-point conversion that Andrews dropped, and Sal Capaccio picked up on the sidelines. The football, we've heard that story. I thought that was pretty cool, man. Anyway, that caused the Ravens to go for 2. They didn't get it. Does McDermott get enough credit for this? You can argue it got them to the AFC Championship. If McDermott goes for the kill shot instead of kicking it, and it doesn't work, the Ravens probably win that playoff game. You can see Dan Campbell going for it in that scenario, for example. So I looked it up because I couldn't remember. There was 3:29 left in that playoff game against Baltimore last year when Tyler Bass kicked that. It was a 21-yard field goal. It was 4th and goal from the 2-yard line. And I do kind of remember a lot of people saying, put him away, go for it. And Alex's point was, well, that field goal put him up 8, which led to the 2-point conversion. 3rd and goal was from the 2-yard line, and Josh Allen got stuffed. They tried a shotgun design run, and it didn't work. But I don't know, how well is your memory with that? Do you remember that last year, like near the end of the game where he kicked 3 to go up 8? It did end up proving to be the right call here. I don't know. I guess Sean McDermott seems to be the poster child for just, you want to find shit to complain about, just drop Sean McDermott's name. But was a good piece of coaching. Very random to bring him up, but sure.
I think if anything, they need to be a little bit better on their 2-point conversions and their like short yardage situations. They've had issues with the 2 points, I think, this year. But to that point, yeah, McDermott gets a lot of stuff in terms of not being, I would call it like gut analytics, where sometimes he's aggressive and sometimes he's not. I think, look, in that game against the Chiefs, I thought he was super aggressive. And that, if you remember, they went for it a bunch on 4th down, and they got a lot of conversions. What lost that game in terms of my opinion is like that stupid quarterback that when they were doing the tush push and they were driving and they were up 8 or whatever it was, that's when you would put the team away, and then they they went to the well too often with that stupid tush push, and it stopped them, and that's when the Chiefs took the ball and scored and tied it, I think it was, or whatever it was. That was when, to me, they was like an issue. But I don't even think that's something where I wish they would change the play calling a little bit in regards to that. But no, I think there's been more of a consensus of like Sean being like his star rising a little bit more, because I think
amongst Bills fans,
yeah, I think more so, because I think in the off season, Brandon Beane was a lightning rod when it came to talking about the wide receivers, being kind of a dick on GR, and you're on year 8, and you could easily go like, look at these players, like these guys need to be better. Your free agents haven't been as good, blah blah blah, or some have been good. It's been a mixed bag at times, and I think that's where you can zero in on him a little bit more, because the biggest thing against McDermott, I felt for the first couple of years, was he was a micromanager. If you go back to Ty Dunn's piece, where it did not paint him in a good light at all, he was a micromanager. Right. Then last year, allegedly he changed. He was doing snow angels and being much nicer and open in the media, and aggressive, like not punting as much or whatever, like, which I think at times he did that, but he was much more aggressive last year. And then the things with Beane, like I mentioned. So I do feel his star has risen a little bit more, whereas Beane's been a little bit more downplayed. But at the end of the day, we don't know who has the final say in personnel. I still to this day don't know if it's Beane or McDermott, or it's a collection. McDermott did hire Beane. I always go back to that. He did hire him, and I felt, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's changed over time, where Beane has a bigger say in these players and McDermott doesn't, or what. But it's hard to, if we're just looking at it, if I want to believe like Beane picks the players and McDermott just, getting coffee somewhere, I think Beane has his stature has lowered a little bit. Not like he's a bum and everyone hates him, but I thought it lowered a little bit. And I think he saved his ass a lot, because look, he's very talkative. The press loves him in Buffalo, whereas McDermott's kind of like, he's gotten better at being a talkative, but before he was just a drone.
Right. So. Well, I'll just say this real quick, and then I want to move on, because I want to get to a few other things before we get out of here. It kind of reminds me a little bit of my years of Ed Oliver takes. It's like Ed Oliver was great in the regular season, and then he would fall apart in the playoffs, especially in the elimination losses. Ed Oliver was invincible, but he was really good in the regular season. I kind of feel like that's Sean McDermott right now. Like, he's proven himself and he's been more aggressive, but he hasn't done it in the playoffs yet. He hasn't had his best coaching in the playoffs. Just like even going back to the Chiefs game last year. Now, this is more of a Joe Brady thing, but Sean McDermott oversees anything, so ultimately he's responsible. Like, that Chiefs game, they showed the Bills wrinkles that the Bills weren't prepared for, that they hadn't seen. The Bills didn't do anything that Kansas City didn't see before. You know what I mean? That's kind of on the coach. But anyway, my whole point was Ed Oliver was awesome last year. And going forward, I have that confidence in him now going into the playoffs. I'm almost getting there with Sean. I do want to point out to one other comment. At BF Walsh 2024 said, "Great takes, guys. I never watch the live stream. I live in Europe, so I always watch on YouTube the next day." That's pretty cool, man. This guy, BF Walsh 2024, always commenting on the YouTube videos or the Instagram stuff. So I just wanted to make sure I got him.
It's always good to have someone pandering to pandering Pat. So
sure, somebody from Europe too. I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool
that somebody from Europe is listening. All right, let's do this. Go ahead.
Can I answer one thing? On your tweet that you had promoted the show, you had said what we're learning about the 3-0 Bills, which we're going over now, or I'm assuming we're wrapping up.
Yep.
Mike Monahan, good dude. He used to write for my website way back in the day. If you ever need your jersey altered, nameplates. Thank you. He's the man to talk to. He said that they are far and away better than every team in the NFL, and it's not close, except for Baltimore. Not sure anyone else touches those two teams. Maybe Philly, but they haven't looked great at 3-0. Would you say the Bills are far and away the best team in the NFL right now?
No, because they don't play consistent, good enough defense. What I will tell you is that the Bills are going to find their way to 30 points, though, against pretty much anybody, because the offense is damn good, and they could beat you in a lot of ways. They could stuff you with the run. They can open it up like they did against Baltimore when Josh has to, when he goes for 261 yards in the fourth quarter. They have everything in the tool bag on offense, and they get takeaways. They win the turnover battle. So they're going to get to 30. What I'm not confident in right now is that the other team's not going to get to 31 or one more point than the Bills. I think Baltimore's defense, even though the Bills lit them up, I still think Baltimore's a better defense than the Bills. Green Bay just lost to freaking Cleveland today. Philly almost lost. They got manhandled by the Rams for most of that game. Those guys are better on defense than the Bills. I don't think the Bills' defense is good enough right now.
Don't you think the Bills' offense is better, though? Don't you think the Bills' offense is better? So why do you have them outside of the three? So who's the best team right now in the NFL?
Hold on. No, you just asked me if I thought the Bills were far and away the best team. I thought that's what you asked me.
Well, yes, it was. And you said no, but do you think they're the best team right now?
I still think Baltimore has the best team.
Okay. And Mike did say, like, aside from maybe the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Baltimore, but he had the Bills like the best, and then he kind of walked it back a little bit at the end with his tweets. But it felt like it's the Bills, and that's it. And so you think Baltimore's better?
I do. I just on paper, I do. I just offenses you could call a wash because again, I think the Bills are getting a 30 on anybody. I just think they're better on I think their secondary is better. The Bills still got iffy. Are you that high on Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp? Because I'm not. Are you that high on Trey White? Because I'm not. I'm looking at Greg Rizzo, who's got 0 sacks this year through 3 games. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Joey Bosa, who's been really, really good, but it's 3 games in. Can he stay healthy? He ain't playing at 87% of the snaps every week. So, Matt Milano's hurt again. You know what I mean? This defense is very leaky, man. They make up for a lot of it by getting these takeaways, but man, again,
they do have to get healthy. So once that happens,
they're right there.
I think today, I still think the Eagles are the best team. I know they're 3-0, but they've had they played the Rams today. It was a close game. I didn't watch the film or anything on that, but I think they're a top 3 team right now. But I don't know if I would say far, but maybe they are. I mean, you can make the case, but I go back to that Baltimore game too. Like, it's a game that they miraculously won, and it was great. But it's also, you have to worry about, and you've said this before, like, when is Lamar Jackson and the Ravens going to prove themselves in the playoffs?
No, 100%. You know what I mean? 100%. Josh Allen plays better in the playoffs than he does in the regular season statistically. Lamar Jackson does not. To conclude that, I would say this. I don't have an answer. I think the Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, even though the Packers lost at Cleveland today, I still think the Packers have a loaded roster, and I'm not going to count the Chiefs out until they're not there, and the Chargers are on the come up. I do want to point out, because I've been saying it the whole episode, I've been wrong. I've said Greg Rizzo has no sacks. That's not true. He actually has a half a sack. He had a half a sack in the Jets game, so I do want to point that out. Thanks to Richard Rush for pointing it out in the live chat. All right, let's fly through your, you got a Mount Rushmore right now.
Flushmore.
Saints even
Flushmore.
Mount Flushmore, worst Bills Saints games.
Yeah, so
they played 4 times in the stadium. I don't even remember 4 of the games, but I do remember one real well.
Yeah, but so here's the funny thing. I looked this up today. Do you know that the Bills haven't beat the Saints at home since 1983?
No, I did not know that. Wow.
In 1983, they're 0-4 since then.
Really?
Which have all been games that I remember, hence why I'm doing this stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, right? They're 0-4. The Saints have a 7-5 all-time record. This is like meaningless stats, but they have a 7-5 all-time record. And 83 was the last time the Bills beat the Saints at home, which is
Before
insane.
You get into it, let me just say this is highly likely to change about 6 days from now. The Bills are 15.5-point favorites right now per ESPN bet to beat the Saints, who got stomped today by Seattle. Anyway, go ahead.
So this is continuing my series on the worst moments in stadium history, because everyone has to do the best ones, which I get. You know that you get the cheap pops. I want the heat. So in terms of the Saints games, let's go to the Flushmore for no in particular order. 1989. I remember this game. I was 9 years old. I'm pretty sure you were 30 at that time. But I remember it's the first season I started watching the Bills. The Bills lost to like John Forcade. And this was like during the bickering Bills era of like, this is 89. They're 9-7. It's bickering Bills. They lost. It was the home finale that season. And I just remember this. It was in the snow, which, you get like one snow game every year, I would say. Maybe in our lives. Maybe once every 2 years sometimes. But it was a shitty snow game. And I just remember they lost, and there was like some guy on the field, like a cameraman, like a local news, had shot like fans booing the shit out of Jim Kelly leaving the field. Like he was going on the top. I think some people were throwing snowballs too at him. And that was just like, holy crap. Like that was like the bottoming out of that season for 9-7, because the Saints were not good that year. And they, for Cade, I forgot, he was shitty. They had like Steve Walsh and Bobby Aber back in the day. So that was pretty terrible.
I do want to point out too in the comments, someone actually asked about him as soon as you started talking about Fort Cade, and then someone else, I think it was Mike in the live chat, said that was his first ever game was the Saints in 88. I don't remember that, but anyway, go ahead.
89. Yeah, 89, you were 30 and you were drunk probably. Moving on, this game I remember. This was the opener. Can you believe the Bills and the Saints played in an opener once for the season? 2001. This was like the Greg Williams rookie year. They were terrible. They were 3-13. I remember this game because I was a sports intern at Channel 2. And you had to log footage of games. You went in and you wrote down every play, what happened. So this is my first game doing this, and it's the Saints game. And I had no confidence in the Bills that year. They tore it down. I didn't have confidence in Rob Johnson. They were like, the West Coast offense is going to be great for him. Like, it was horrible in that game. That was where the Bills were up 6-0 at halftime, and then the Saints just ran them over. There was like this one highlight play I can kind of remember where it might have been like Joe Horn or someone, where Keon Carpenter, it was a bomb. Aaron Brooks was the quarterback. He threw like a bomb. Keon Carpenter almost had the end. Like he went back with his hand. He tipped it backwards, and it went back into a Saints hand. I think it was Horn, like I said, for a touchdown. They ended up losing that game, I think like 24-6. It was a terrible. Johnson was sacked like 5 times. Shocker. Had 3 interceptions. But the biggest thing in this game, and you'll remember this or this moment, Sam Coward tore his ACL in that game.
Oh, that was Saints.
Yeah, and all he did was he went back to pass, and that's how shitty that turf was when they used to be just the green AstroTurf of the 90s. He went back to pass. He was backpedaling. Boom, freaking the turf ate his ankle, and he was
unfortunate.
Done.
He was a great what if kind of player. I thought he was a good linebacker.
Dude, he was a great linebacker.
Yeah,
he was great. The next one was 2009. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm just going by memory because that's how I roll. You'll remember this game. This was like the T.O. elite year. This is when Ryan Denny scored the only touchdown for the Bills that game. When Brian Moorman did the fake punt and he chucked it to Denny, like it was on the first drive, and the offense
holy
was
shit! I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they lost. They lost 27-7 or something. That was when the offense was like awful, and like Jaron was getting fired and at some point. But Drew Brees was the quarterback, and that was a bad game. So they lost that. So that's 3-0. And then this one you'll definitely remember. I think everyone remembers it.
Yes.
2017. This is one of those games. Like that after the game, it was they started that season 5-2 or 5-1, whatever the hell it was, and they lost. They lost one game. I forgot what the game was before. Oh, they lost to the Jets on Thursday night. It was kind of a close game, but not really. And then the next game, they played the Saints. They got freaking obliterated. The Bills gave up over 300 yards in rushing. Tyrod was terrible.
He got benched. This led to the Nate Peterman fiasco the next week.
The San Diego.
Chargers.
Yeah, because I don't know if he got benched in that game against the Saints. He got benched the next day, and that's what shocked everyone. But I just remember that game being like afterwards, everyone was bitching because it was one of those classic, why are we talking about the defense giving up 300 yards? We should be talking about how Tyrod was terrible. And the Tyrod fans would be like, why are we talking about Tyrod? They gave up 300 yards rushing. What the hell? It was just a blitzkrieg. I remember that game. It was horrible. And I don't even know who those running backs were. It was 2017. Was it Kamara or Deuce McAllister?
I remember this is the one. It was Kamara and it was Mark Ingram, and both of them ran for 100 yards against the Bills. Dude, Ingram ran for over 100 yards and scored 3 touchdowns against the Bills, and Kamara ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown as well. I'm actually got it open now, and I'm looking at the stats. Yeah, New England. I mean, not New England. New Orleans, to be fair, they came into the game 7-2. Yeah. So. Buffalo 5-4. Again, this was the year the Bills broke the drought. You're right, though. This game was freaking frustrating.
And it was so bad. And then the next day, like they benched Tyrod, which I was against. I was like, because I always look,
I remember that.
I always had a soft spot for Tyrod, and I felt bad from that final year because, from what I remember, this is my how I thought of it. Everyone wanted Tyrod back, and everyone, I'm using that loosely, was like, "Hey, get him back, great." And then he restructured his deal. He came back, and then the Bills didn't get a quarterback in the draft. And I just remember the Bills leaked it to like the local press, like, "Oh, but don't worry, next year we're getting a quarterback. Don't worry." And to me, that just switched the lights on Bills fans, where it was basically like if you had a significant other who was away, like in the army somewhere, and you found out, oh, they're coming back in a year. You're like, okay, I have this side piece. I'm going to get rid of them anyway, and I don't care. And that's kind of how I felt like the whole year. Like Tyra got so much shit, and he wasn't very good, and they changed, and they. I don't care what anyone says. I felt like they wanted to be bad that year so they could get a quarterback high the next year. I know they've told others they didn't. I don't buy that.
You know, some quick love here for Tyrod, okay? Just because I'm looking at the box score from this game, and you're talking about it, and he got benched after, and again, that led to the Nate Peterman 5 interception fiasco.
Yeah,
which will go in all time Bills lore the very next game. But this is the year that the Bills broke the drought, folks. All right, and besides Tyrod there at quarterback and LaShawn McCoy, very good. I'm looking at the other skill position players from this box score. Kelvin Benjamin, Patrick DeMarco, Jordan Matthews, Nick O'Leary, Mike Tolbert, Deontay Thompson, and Charles Clay. That is some pretty scrubby ass
and think about this, like
position players.
Well, Jordan Matthews, it was funny. He had like 1,000 yards before he got to Buffalo a couple different times, and he got here and he was terrible, and he got hurt. He got hurt soon after. He broke his thumb, and we never saw him again. And then we all know Kelvin Benjamin was terrible when he got here. But yeah, I've always had a soft spot for Tyrod. It sucks that they lost today. I mean, it's good, like the Jets, whatever, but they lost barely today. You know, he always has bad luck, like since he left here. Like he gets stabbed by a shot, or he gets hurt. And the Jets, I think, scored like 27 points today. I don't know, but
yeah, it was a weird game. John Sanders wanted to know if Breeze played in that game, by the way, which he did. The answer is yes.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
$184. He didn't have to do anything because they just kept running the football.
Yeah, that 2017 team was just like up and down. Like they lost those 3 straight games, and then the next week was the freaking Peterman game, and then they went back to Tyrod and they beat the Chiefs.
Yep.
The week after when it was Alex Smith versus Tyrod. But yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, it's just crazy that they have not. It's not like the Saints have been a juggernaut, but they've lost 4 straight at home, and I'm
sure,
as you said, they're going to break that streak. They should break it next week. Do you have anything else? Because I wanted to ask you a question before we.
Yeah, well, I got a couple of quick things to get to. Plus, I want to get to a couple of comments from the people that are in the live chat that I bookmarked. But
I already forgot the rundown. No, I'll ask you at the end. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, today with the Bills not playing, again, I really hate with every single fiber of my being. I hate the Bills playing on Thursday night. I hate it so much. That said, it was kind of nice on a warm weather Sunday, September, to enjoy football and just get other shit done, which was pretty cool to kind of have a stress-free, relaxing Sunday afternoon. Like I said, I went and got a new phone, but I watched most of the games. The only thing I want to say as we're recording this, which by the way, the Chiefs are playing right now.
9-6.
9-6 against the Giants. All right, I don't want to comment about that because, again, who knows how that'll play out. But anyway, the Chargers, I just want to say, we don't need to have a discussion. Maybe we'll do that next week. But the Chargers are for real. All right, they just beat Denver. They're 3-0. They've beaten Denver and Kansas City already. We're talking about Buffalo and Baltimore, which we should. It's the Chargers at least deserve a seat right now at the table when it comes to the AFC, the conference, the best teams in the conference. They're good. The Saints, they stink. I mean, they are bad. If the Bills, if they're not good on third downs and all the things they've been bad at, if they're not better on Sunday, this might be a very negative show come next Sunday.
That's what I was actually going to ask you when I was interrupting you. What's the point total for them to win by that you won't be annoyed at? Like
it depends. 3 scores.
Because that's going to be one of the. I just brought up in the beginning when I had my little diatribe in the middle about content bros and things like that. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be like, if they win by 20 and they don't look sexy enough, it's gonna be like, leave those people alone. Like
if they win by 10 and it's a more competitive game than we expect, you're gonna see a lot of negativity. My benchmark is the spread. If it's going to be 15.5 to 16, I want the Bills. There's no reason for the Bills to not win by 3/4. I'll just say that. So there's that. I just want to comment too. Green Bay, who I still think is one of the best few teams in the NFL, they lose at Cleveland, which does go to show you, dude, at the end of the day, this is the NFL. This happens all the time. Anything can happen. The Browns, nobody thought the Browns were going to beat the Packers today, and they did, which kind of makes the fact that the Bills just don't lose those kind of games ever. That kind of makes it's a good endorsement for Sean McDermott. And then the last thing I want to say, it's 3 weeks in. They haven't really played much yet, but holy shit, Daniel Jones looks really good with the Colts, man. He looks like really good with the Colts. You wonder if Brian Dable kind of was a detriment to his time in New York. I don't know, man. Brian Dable kind of made Josh Allen a little bit early in his career, and it kind of feels like he impeded Daniel Jones. Again, it's early, but the Colts are 3-0, and Danny Dimes is dropping dimes, man. He looks really, really good right now.
You got Jonathan Taylor there, and he's helping the quarterback.
Yeah, he ran for 100 yards and like 3 touchdowns today.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do with the Colts. Going back to the Chargers. One thing that worries me, and look, I've been on the Chargers. Like I've worried about the Chargers even last year. Remember, I used to talk about them all the time, and the Bills never played them. It's hard for me to assess how they'll do against the Bills because Justin Herbert hasn't played the Bills since 2020 when he was a rookie. Right. The last time they played him, it was the stick. Yeah, the stick guy played, and they had their interim coach in, and the Bills, like, they have not played Jim Harbaugh yet. Jim Harbaugh's, and they're a little bit like the Ravens a little bit, except I think Herbert has probably a little bit better passer than Lamar. It's like a tad, like a small give or take.
Herbert looks good early. Herbert might be in some MVP conversations if he continues to play. The way he is. Kind of goes back to what I was saying about the Bills. When in terms of them being so much better than everyone else, I think their offense will get to 30 against the Chargers. I don't know if their defense will hold them to 30 against the Chargers. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, they're for real, I think, right now, and they've proven that early. Let me get to a couple of comments here from the Peanut Gallery who was watching live tonight. Cryonic said, the Bills would never lose to the Bears or the Browns. We criticize a lot about the team. I think we got it good, fellas, to be honest. I just said that a minute ago. I think that's a fair take, dude. One thing about the Bills that we never talk about is them losing to a shit football team. Yeah, I kind of feel like, what do you got to go back to, like, maybe the Broncos a couple years ago on that Thursday night game where the Broncos sucked? That's like the last time we lost to a terrible team.
Yeah, then New England that year, they lost to Mac Jones. And then,
that's right. On the road.
The Jets in the opener when Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL. But that's still a long time. By the way, I looked this up. The Bills, not counting the playoffs, they have scored since the start of last season 30 points or more in 15 games.
Yeah.
That's incredible. 15 games. They played 20, and they scored 30 in like 15 of those, which is kind of crazy.
And it's been a sustainable, great offense now. And going back to the beginning of our show, I just don't think there's a wrong way to go about it. Whether you're dropping bombs or whether you're running the ball and grinding, they get there, man, and that's what matters. Sale says 2 coaches and 1 quarterback who have not been to the Super Bowl with 7 playoff appearances. McDermott, Chuck Knox, and Allen. Not quite sure where we're going with that exactly. Look, Sean McDermott has been in the playoffs a lot, not got into a Super Bowl. That's the only thing I take away from that. Mike said Tooch is getting some cooch. That was at the beginning of the show. Tooch did come on to make an appearance. Paul Walker says, have not talked about this guy today. Josh Palmer looks smooth as butter. He could pop soon. If you remember, and maybe it wasn't on our show. Maybe it was another show I did. But I predicted he was going to lead the Bills in receiving yards this year. And he did, actually, in week 2, I believe it was.
Still
yeah, he hasn't popped yet, though, to the point of the commenter, Paul. He's not popped, but, hey, he hasn't needed to this point. Richard Rush, Groot is generally a good run stopper. Do you think I was being too harsh on Greg Rizzo earlier?
No. I mean, you want him to be better. I mean, you don't hate him. That's why I'm saying, like, I had that whole thing about, like, that we're running a podcast. Like, what the hell are we supposed to talk about? We're supposed to just blow the Bills. I mean, we do. we do a very good job, I think, of kissing the Bills' asses, and we just talk about other things that they got to be better at. There's not much things for us. Like, we're pretty, I don't know, like, I don't have anything like I'm angry about. They're 3-0. They're just things they have to work on. Like, sorry that we don't have a 25, thread film bro study of like, oh my God, here's Greg Rousseau sealing the edge.
Do you feel like
those
sometimes
evil people who hate him, you're all wrong.
do
Go
you
ahead.
feel like sometimes you gotta almost dig deep into the barrel to find shit to criticize about them because
Sure,
we
a little
don't you
bit.
don't want to come off as too much of a homer, I guess would be the right word to describe it. But I don't know, man. They're
No,
3-0,
I
and
think
I do notice that sometimes. I feel like sometimes there's a decent amount of negativity that goes around about a team that is just really good because I feel like
I,
sometimes we're trying too hard. But you're not wrong either about finding things
we're
they can be
on a
better at.
podcast for 90 minutes. You're on a podcast every day, Pat. Like you have to be you like, I'm lucky I can shut it down after this and just, fall asleep. And I know you can't because you're an idiot and you're addicted to this crap. But yeah, you have to attack everything in terms of like what it is. I feel very confident about them right now. I think there's a lot of mystery in a good mystery way in terms of like there's guys that aren't back there yet. I am concerned about Matt Milano like that. I'll have this. I don't think I said this last week. Or maybe I did. I don't remember. But I'll say it now. I would save Matt Milano for like the bigger games this regular season.
You
Play
said
him
that.
like,
You said that.
well, I'm going to say it
Last
again. I was drunk. I don't remember. Play him like 20 snaps in those big games, and then when the playoffs come, play him whenever because he is injury prone now. And I know you said like I don't know if you still felt Williams was really good in that game. I know you watched the film, but I get what you're saying. I saw someone say they played 3 linebackers more recently.
They did.
That they've been doing that, which kind of makes sense because they're deep. They're kind of deep at linebacker a little bit more than at cornerback. Because they used to always do like Jordan Poyer would be like that down in that linebacker for them kind of, and he's sitting in the locker room,
Yeah.
yelling big dubs after every game when they win. So
Matt Milano's a tough one, man. It's when does he get back? How effective is he going to be? Can you trust him? Do you just say, you know what? I know what I got in Dorian Williams, and I can depend on him. Shaq Thompson did play that third linebacker role, at least against Miami, and I thought he looked pretty damn good doing it for sure.
Yeah. Look,
We'll see.
Let me ask you this: 2 guys, offense, defense, who you want to see more out of?
Let
Greg
me
Rousseau,
let me get let's put that on ice for 30 seconds. I do want to read one more comment.
Sure.
It was from James DeClaire who said, "Does Landon Jackson get a game day jersey before Hoyt and Ogajobi come back? Unless there's an injury, no. I don't see it, man. They're not gonna bench Epinesa. Maybe Solomon, but he plays special teams value, and Joe loves special teams, and he'll tell you how important special teams is all the time.
They had good special teams like last week, I think, right?
No, they were bad pretty much,
bad?
actually, kind of last week.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
I'm thinking of the Jets. I'm thinking of the Jets.
But anyway, to answer the question, I don't think that's going to be the case. And furthermore, when Michael Hoyt gets back, I think Sullivan becomes the odd guy out. I don't know if there's not injuries. They might not. Landon Jackson might be inactive, and he's their 3rd round pick, and he might be inactive for 17 games this year. That's how I feel about him. Back to your question. What did you ask me? One guy on offensive defense were what?
That you want to see more out of. I mean, I already know what the defensive guy is going to be. It's going to be Rousseau, which I think we banged that pretty much. You want to see more out of him.
Yes.
Right. What about on offense? Who do you want to see more of?
God, it's tough to be critical because, again, this offense has been so good. Maybe I would like to see more out of Keon Coleman. He had a great first game, 8 catches for 112 yards, and has not been much of a factor the last 2 games. So I would like to see him be a little more consistent. I don't expect him to have 8 catches for 100 yards every week, but it's not like all or nothing with him. Is he 8 for $112, or is he going to get 3 for 20? Because that's what he had this past game. Give me 4 catches for 50 yards consistently, and I would be happy with that. So I'd like to see more from Keon Coleman, I think, going forward.
All right. I'd like to see a little bit more of Shakir. I feel like we're due a Shakir game a little bit. Not like he's like a bust or anything. He's been fine, but I still, would like a little bit of a.
That's
like,
fair.
Give me like a 90-yard game or something like that. So
He had clutch catches in this Miami game.
yeah, so he came on like later. I would feel I got to watch the condensed version of it because obviously I was drinking that night, and I do remember most of it. But like I was celebrating with my friend his birthday, and
yeah.
I got to watch the condensed.
All right, we can put a wrap on this. You got anything else or anything that we forgot about?
I was gonna sing a song, but I'm tired, and I was gonna sing a song to say goodbye, but no, I'm not doing
And plus, you know what? Because I expect the Saints game to be kind of a blowout. We'll get through a lot of stuff from the Saints game, and then next week we'll have plenty more to talk about. It's too late in the show now, so we'll save it for next week. But both you and I had some pretty strong takes. I know we got some wrestling fans here about WrestlePalooza.
45 seconds for that. Then I cannot believe for WrestlePalooza you have to either have like the Spectrum Ultimate package of like every cable channel known to man, which no one has, or you have to pay $30. Like I thought because I had ESPN on Spectrum, I can watch this stupid thing, and I couldn't. That's bullshit, garbage. And I know I could pirate it, and I had difficulty pirating last night, and bullshit. That's all I got to say about that.
Bullshit. Fair enough. We'll talk some wrestling a little bit down the line. Let's get to let's put a wrap on this episode. Big shout out, by the way. Sunday night, no Bills game, still ended up getting over 1,100 there in the live chat. So big shout out to you. Chooch says WWE is ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless. They're corporate greed. And shout out to you. You almost had a meltdown in the beginning. We lost the stream for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and you pulled it out. You were like Josh Allen, like on the final drive against the Ravens where it looked bad or whatever, and you came through. So
you know what? Because you know what I did that I figured it out. I thought like last week it was the platform itself. We broadcast through this platform called EVMux. Most people use StreamYard. Joe and I are using EVMux. StreamYard gave me even more problems. But anyway, what I learned is that when the sound goes out, when I can't hear you or I mute or whatever, it's my Rodecaster Pro, which really sucks because I'm telling you, this is a top-end, very expensive piece of equipment here on my desk that's going out. So I knew that if I unplugged it and restarted it, that the stream didn't have to go away. It was some awkward silence. I don't know what you might have been saying during because I couldn't hear you for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I didn't really add anything except I was talking. It was at the worst time. I was talking about my beer and I forgot what else.
But anyway, I figured out what it is. And I tell you, I got an old Rodecaster too, and I might have to go to it because this is just happening way too freaking often. But anyway, thank you for staying on the podcast and not bouncing when I went out. Thank you, everybody. Like I said, for watching, for listening. Be back. Chris Ostrander is going to join me on tomorrow's show. We're going to actually talk some hockey because, believe it or not, folks, the Sabres preseason slate starts on Monday. So we'll talk some Bills, but we'll also talk some Sabres, and Matt Warren will join me for Wednesday's show, and we'll figure out the rest along the way. So thank you very much, and be back. Brand new show coming up tomorrow.